Today's episode is a treat, and we have a very special guest. And while she came to talk about live launches, we ended up also talking about efficiency, getting in front of people, and the key to perfecting and increasing confidence behind the camera. This episode is sponsored by our template shop, one of the most efficient and cost-effective ways to build your website and get your brand out there. Whether you're just launching your business or reinventing yourself and need a fresh new look, I recommend that you start with our free brand guide and website mockup template. In addition to the Canva template to create your brand guide, Claire includes a training teaching you the do's and don'ts of establishing your brand aesthetic so you don't make the common mistakes that repel potential customers. Use the link in the show notes or under this YouTube video to check out our template shop and grab the free brand guide template today. Hey friend, welcome to the Badass is the New Black podcast, where our motto is done is better than perfect. I'm Chrissy Chin, here on a mission to help you grow your business online, turn your leads into lifelong customers, and scale to six figures and beyond so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more. Most importantly, I'm a laid-back wife, a mom, a friend who started as a peds nurse turned network marketer, and now a serial entrepreneur. This podcast is for ambitious people with an idea, a vision, but no idea how to get there. On this podcast, I'll give actionable steps to keep you moving forward while you learn new business strategies, better systems and processes, marketing, sales, all the things you need to build and scale a blissful business that keeps your pocketbooks growing. Grab a beverage, open up your notes app, and let's get to it. Today on the podcast, we have Kelly Roach joining us. She is one of the only female founders in the online space to build her company from 0 to 8 figures with zero debt, no investors or outside funding. Kelly is a former NFL cheerleader and a Fortune 500 executive turned 8-figure plus entrepreneur, empowering thousands around the globe to achieve financial and lifestyle freedom through entrepreneurship. Kelly is an 11 times international best-selling author, top 20 podcast host, and a philanthropist who has been featured in major media such as ABC, NBC, Fox, and Forbes, as well as the recipient of a prestigious award such as the number 287 on the Inc. 5000 list and the Stevie Awards Woman of the Year, Titan CEO of the Year, and Inc.'s Best in Business. Kelly, welcome. Wow, what a rap sheet. Everything that you've accomplished is just incredible. And I'm so glad that you're here to share just a tiny morsel of what you've learned along your incredible journey. And we're going to talk a bit about live launching, kind of getting started with it. So I'm just so grateful that you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I love that. I love that you are a woman of efficiency. When you started your business, I know your journey kind of goes back, but when you started, you
Yeah.
always talk about how you didn't have very much time, right? And so
Yeah.
you were incredibly smart and efficient. Tell me more about that.
Well, yeah, I was working an executive job, so I was still working like 50 to 60 hours a week in my full-time job when I started my business. And so I just didn't have the luxury of spending 40 or 60 hours a week on, growing my own company. And so I had to really get clear on the top 3 things that were going to drive profitable growth in the business so that I could grow my income to be more than my executive salary, which was
Right.
a lot, so that I could leave, right? And so for me, it really came down to focusing on 3 core things, and that was creating content, initiating conversations, and then doing consultations. And I built my business to 7 figures while I was working full time, and I basically did that in about 3 hours a day. Usually it was an hour before I went into the office in the morning, an hour in my car on my lunch break, and then usually an hour in the evenings. And then after I put my daughter to bed, I would actually do my client coaching calls at 7 and 8 o'clock in the evening. So it was really that laser beam focus of what is actually going to move the needle. And the biggest advice I always tell people is it comes down to mic time. That's the easiest way for me to describe it. You're either on camera, you're behind a microphone, or you're talking to another human. Because the tendency as an entrepreneur is to get really caught up in all the semantics of the things that you need to do that are behind the scenes that no one sees. But the problem is when you're getting started, people don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that you can convert more clients and get paid for your work is if people find out who you are. And I've been a huge believer in that from day one. And it's why, even though now I have a portfolio of 6 companies, my first business crossed over 8 figures, I'm sitting here with you today. I do this every single week religiously. I am getting out there and I'm getting visible to people that have never heard my name before, because I know that mic time is the heartbeat of what builds businesses.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. And I just recently, like, it's just been echoing in my ears. So I'm like, clearly, I need to keep hearing this message. And I know the listeners need to keep hearing this message of kind of this omnipresence, kind of being in
Yeah,
all the places, having conversations with people, like putting in
yeah,
the effort, whether, now you likely have a team, right?
yes,
That's helping you get on people's podcasts like this. But in the beginning, you've got to do the work. And I love that you're just
100%.
kind of stressing, have the conversations, put yourself in front of other people. I've said that recently. If nobody
Yeah,
knows your business, if nobody knows who you are, they can't buy from you. They
exactly.
literally can't
Exactly.
buy from you.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to come up with that plan to get in front of people. So what
Yeah.
is your like number one tip if someone's like cringing about like, oh my gosh, does this mean I have to get on social media every single day? It's okay.
Yeah.
You could be hard on them. You can say yes. What would
Yeah.
you say to someone who's like just you've just said you've got to be in front of the camera, you've got to be behind the
Mhm.
microphone, and they're just got a pit in their stomach and they're like, I'm terrified.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing to be scared of, because if no one's paying you now, then it's not going to hurt, right, for people to see and hear from you. But I don't think that you need to be online every day. I've never been a person that spent a lot of time online, to be completely honest. And a lot of that goes back to the fact that I was building my business while I was working full time. So what you do need to do, though, is if you're not going to be online every day, you need to batch your content. And that is what I've done from day one. I'll take a day and I'll record 8 podcasts. I'll take a day and I'll record 40 short videos. I'll take a couple hours and I'll write 20 social media posts. So it's not that you need to live online. It's that you need to batch your work so that you have consistency and frequency to be online every day, even when you're not. And I think that's the big distinction, is you have to figure out a workflow and a process that works for you. Everyone's different. There's no one size fits all. For me, I don't like spending a lot of time on social media. I'm not like a scroller. I don't like sitting online. So from day one, I've always been focused on taking a couple days a month, doing a huge batch. And when I was getting started, before I had a big paid team like I have today, I started off with interns. And I literally would create my content. I would pass it off to the interns. They would match it up with graphics or photos or whatever the case. And they would pre-plan it and they would get it posted every day. And people would always say to me, like, you're online all the time. You're online all the time. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm really probably online less than the average person is, but I'm super hyper focused on the efficiency of making sure my brand always looks consistent and frequent. There's a cadence that we follow. We stick to it no matter what. And I always say the biggest thing with building consistency around brand is you have to set up a work process that doesn't require you to be perfect. It's just like a workout plan or an exercise or nutrition plan. If you set yourself up for a plan where you have to be perfect and you have to be perfect every single day, you know it's going to crumble. You know it's going to fall apart. It's not going to happen. So instead, you have to set yourself up for a business plan that matches your life plan, that doesn't require you to be perfect. And that just requires a little bit of intentionality around planning and being strategic and batching, so that you don't have to be perfect every day. You don't have to have a great day every single day. But to the world, they need to see your face and see your name every day, because people have a 2.9 second attention span now. So it's really important to be cognizant of that.
I know. I think it used to be 6 seconds
Yeah.
and now it's
Yeah.
like less than 3 seconds. I love this. This is why I knew you'd be perfect for the podcast, because I talk about the same things. My motto is done is better than perfect. So people listening out there, they're like,
Yes,
you're just echoing the
exactly.
same message, because if we
That's
wait till
right.
it's perfect, so our perfectionists out there
That's
are type
it.
A, it's like you've got to let go of that.
Yeah.
And I love what you said earlier. No one's paying you, so it's okay, kind of the theme of it, okay if you mess up. Also,
Yeah.
like, you're starting small. You're not starting
Yeah.
with a million people following you and watching you. So if you
Yeah.
fumble and mess up and, whatever happens,
Exactly.
only a few people, probably your mom, maybe your sister, your best friend, saw
Exactly.
you and they're gonna love you regardless. And so it's fine. People don't remember that.
Yeah.
So you get to just kind of be carefree and do it what feels good to you. And if you mess up and stumble your words, like, it's not the end of the world and you can keep moving forward.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. And I remember when I first started on video, and I would be trying to capture like a 2-minute video, and I would have to re-record it like 35 times, and I would make my husband insane. I go back, and actually we had an old what are those things called? I don't even know what they're called. Little, the pods that we had back in the day, where we store our music and
Yeah,
stuff. I
like an
mean,
iPod.
yeah, like an iPod. And we pulled that up the other day. We were looking at family pictures, and one of my videos from like 10 years ago came up. And I mean, it was like nails on a chalkboard. And it's crazy because I've made my entire living by teaching on camera. It's how I've built my 6 companies. It's how I, was on the Inc. 5000. Like everything I've accomplished was from that. But the only reason I was able to get to the point that I am today is I just kept running the reps. Like you don't have to be good to start, but you have to start to be good. And the only way that you get extraordinary is just by being the person who puts in more reps. Like there's no
Mm,
secret, there's no secret sauce. It's like you
mm.
show up and you do it imperfect. And then ultimately, that thing that is your weakness will end up becoming your strength because you put in the reps, because you showed up.
Yeah. Has that always been a characteristic of yours or something, your background cheerleading? I'm sure that was like, show up, do the work every
Yeah.
single day, long practices. I mean, has that just always been your personality or is it something that you learned along the way and just was instilled in you in the different things that you've done?
Yeah, I mean, I think I learned it in dance, right? Because I was a competitive dancer. So, I mean, we would run routines 30, 50, 100 times in like a week, And so it was just instilled in us that you have to get to the point of having muscle memory with something in order to perform at a really high level so that you're no longer concentrating on what you're doing. You can actually be present, right? It's like the difference between you and I having this conversation right now and being very like natural with one another versus you as the host sitting there and like having pre-prepared questions and being like, okay, and now next I'm going to read the next question here. Like that's the difference. And the only way you can get to that point is by building muscle memory where you no longer have to concentrate on the steps. You can actually be present because you've developed that ability
Mhm.
to, walk through whatever that process is. And that could be delivering a webinar, that could be doing a live launch, that could be recording a podcast, that could be you just doing a weekly live show online or recording a 2-minute reel, like whatever it is. But yeah, it absolutely came from athletics. And that's why I always tell people I've helped so many people build 6 and 7 and even 8-figure businesses. And I say to them every single day, you have to train for your business like an athlete trains for their sport. It's the only way that you're going to build something extraordinary because the people that fail, and most of them do, they fail because they never ran enough reps to get good in the first place. Like
Mhm.
most people that quit at anything in their businesses, if you look at the actual stats, they didn't actually run enough reps to ever be successful. Like they were out of the game before they were ever in it. So when you remove the emotion and you think about it like an athlete and you think about it from the standpoint of it takes 10,000 hours to develop mastery, it puts a whole different perspective on what you're doing. I think as entrepreneurs, we have this tendency to like judge everything about ourselves and everything about what we do. And we are like the harshest critics of everything that we execute in the business, assuming that we do something once or twice and it should provide this like extraordinary result. And it's just not realistic. It's not how life works. You have to do so many iterations of something to get it to the point of performing at a peak level above average, and then even furthermore to get it to the point where it's providing predictable and consistent results. And I think if more people had that perspective about their businesses, they would have way less anxiety, they would have way less stress, they would enjoy building their businesses so much more. It's this pressure that we put on ourselves,
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think remembering that when you're looking at someone, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're seeing us, you're seeing your beautiful background in my office that's designed by a friend of mine and decorated. And it's like, I don't know about you, but I didn't start with an
Oh my
office that
gosh.
looked like this.
I started in a little chair in a corner of my spare bedroom, and there was a bed on the other side of my room because I didn't have like my own office because we didn't have enough room in that house at the time. And it was literally like a chair in the corner. So, like, I put the camera facing the corner so that you couldn't see that literally 1 foot away
Right,
from me was the bed on the other side of the room. Like, we
right.
all start that way.
Yes,
Everyone does, you
yes.
know?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think that's just important to remember, like, oftentimes when
Yeah.
we're comparing our
Exactly.
beginning to someone else's middle or someone,
Exactly.
3/4 of the way through. Like, you've got 6 successful businesses, you know?
Exactly.
Claire and I have
Exactly.
multiple businesses, so, you can't compare yourself
Mm-mm.
to that in the beginning. I love where this conversation has gone and taken us. Let's give them something about live launches because I was like, that's what we're going to talk about today. Live
Yeah.
launches. I know there's a couple hot things you want to talk about. We don't have to cover them all, either building authority or being more intentional, using your intuition with live launches. Kind of what are you, using your intuition? What do you feel like the audience needs to hear today about this idea of live launching? Because live launching can be stressful at times,
Hmm.
just because of it's happening live, things are
Yeah.
going, having to be present and all of that. So
Yeah.
give us some golden nuggets with live launching.
Yeah, so a couple things. I mean, first of all, I wrote the book on live launch in I think 2018, and we have since taught it to over 100,000 people. And a lot of people now say that they teach the live launch. And so we found that many people are learning the live launch from people that have never actually scaled a multiple 7 or 8 figure plus business the way that we have and actually taught hundreds of thousands of people this method. So the first thing I'll say is if live launching feels really stressful to you, chances are you've learned live launch from someone who hasn't really perfected live launch.
Mm.
Because live launch, we use 14 different methods across my 6 companies for acquiring customers. Live launch by far and away outperforms every other strategy that we use on a 10x basis. So our results with live launch are 10x everything else that we do, no matter how hard we try, no matter how hard we work. We're always testing, we're always innovating, we're always bringing in new and different ways to acquire customers because we want to keep being on the cutting edge of what's happening in the online space. But what I can tell you is when we look at customer buying mentality today in 2024, when we look at the way that people want to experience brands, they want to experience you live. They want to get to know you, not just the product, not just the solution that you offer, but like who you are. And they're going to want to consume, more hours of your content before they make a buying decision. And all live launch does is it takes something that could otherwise take you 6 or 9 months to accomplish, and it allows you to do it in 9 days. The other thing is the way that we teach live launch is that you launch cycle. So you develop your launch once and then you repeat it and just iterate it and scale it over and over again. I think that's a really important piece of understanding how to get to the point where launching is not stressful and it feels free and it feels fun and you get to use your intuition and you're kind of just enjoying that process because you're doing that heavy lift at the beginning, but then you're just doing little tweaks and iterations along the way. And I think that's a game changer for our clients and why they have so much success because going back to the conversation that we talked about earlier, they're developing mastery in delivering this launch, right? Whereas what most people do is every time they launch, they're like reinventing the wheel. So
Mhm.
every 3 months or every 6 months, you're completely starting over, which doesn't allow you the opportunity to develop mastery of what you're delivering. And so, of course, it feels stressful because it
Yeah.
feels like you're creating and creating and creating, and you're never getting to the point where you can just relax into enjoying being present and you know the content so well that you don't need notes, you don't need a script, you don't need a PowerPoint. You feel like you are truly like just kind of concierging people through this amazing experience where you're teaching and speaking from the heart. And that's where we want to help people to get to.
Yes, I love that because I've definitely been in those seasons of, launching a new masterclass and then wanting to just revamp the whole thing,
Yeah.
for the next one.
Yeah.
And this is like, I'm finally getting to this place where, okay, using the same class, using the same
Yeah.
emails, using the same
Yeah.
method, to where when we were doing 2 live launches a year for the last couple of years, we've recognized that if we want affiliates to participate and promote, we have to do it on their schedule, because
Yeah.
this last season, everyone was launching at the same time. But
Yeah.
again, people do like a live class. So while we have an evergreen option, it's like we want to provide that live masterclass, that live experience for those that would function better with that, or
Exactly.
would respond better to that, I guess I should
Yeah.
say. And
Yeah.
so doing, thinking about like, oh, if we had one affiliate every month, oh my gosh, 12 live launches, like the initial gut feeling could be like, oh my gosh. And then just setting it up, it was like, oh, that was so easy, just like duplicating and
Yeah.
going with the same thing. So when you do get that system in place, when you do get that content kind of solid,
Yeah.
then just the repetition of doing the same thing over and over. So, what would you say to someone in the beginning? How much do you need to tweak, or should you run it at least twice before really tweaking anything major to see, was it just, let's say someone didn't have the conversion that they wanted to, like how much are you having them look
Yeah.
at like what went wrong versus maybe we just didn't get the right people, or
Yeah. That's exactly it, right? So it's really important to objectively debrief your launch before you make changes, because we'll have people come to us and say, oh, my launch failed. I need to create a new launch. And we're like, hold on, let's go through the numbers. And we'll go through, and you have to look at the number of registrations, the number of attendees, the number of people that saw the pitch, the conversion rate. Like, you have to go through each level of the launch to determine where the actual breakdown is. And so many times people are like, oh, it was the content, or it was the pitch, or whatever. And it absolutely isn't. It's not that you have to change the launch. It's either that, you need to get a better show up rate, or you need to make sure that you have more, live attendees, or you need to make sure that there's enough registrations to actually drive the sales goal. I find a lot of times people will have a higher than average conversion rate. So they're actually performing inside the launch, but they're just not driving enough traffic to it. So it's different for everyone. It's never one size fits all, but like, this is what we do inside our programs, obviously, is we teach you how to debrief so that you understand, exactly to your point. It's like, so many times people are like, okay, I did that launch. Now I'm going to go change everything. And we're like, no, you're not. We're keeping everything the same. We're going to tweak this one thing that then is going to get you those next 10 sales, or get you that next 6 or 7 figure leap, for the business. So just assessing the pieces, versus looking at it just as like one whole thing.
Yeah, and I would say that I would recognize that people who don't follow a coach, join a program, follow an already proven system, will
Yeah.
find themselves in this place where they are like, I have no idea what
Yeah.
I'm doing wrong, but
Yeah.
if you do find someone that you really enjoy, like do your program, and you're following the steps in the systems, it's been proven to work for lots of people. And
Oh,
so
a
then you
thousand
can
percent.
just make these tiny tweaks. So always, if you want to save time, if you're someone who likes to save time and save money really in the long run, I know a lot of people are like, but I'm newer to my business, I can't invest in the program. Like, how much money are you losing by not investing, having someone
That's
coach you
it.
through and guide you so you can do it right or near right the first time,
Yeah.
instead of fumbling around for a year, 2 years, trying to make enough money to join the program? Like,
It's
you
wild.
invest in
Yeah.
things that you want. So, like,
Yeah.
cut out that little shopping spree that month, pull it back a
Exactly.
little bit and invest in your business and invest in yourself. If you have that dream, that vision of something big that you want, I hate to say like you have to make sacrifices, but like you
Yeah,
get to
you
choose.
do.
You
You
get to
choose.
choose,
Well,
right?
I say all the time, you choose your hard, right? You choose your
Mhm.
hard, because it's hard to find the money to make the investment when it's inconvenient to work with the right person to help you get the result. It's a lot harder to spend 3 years spending that money and so much
Mhm.
more trying to figure it out the hard way on your own. And I always say there's 3 things that I did when I started my business that absolutely were the catalyst for massive growth really, really quickly. Number one, I hired my first coach before I even had my first client. Number two, I started paid traffic and advertising right away. And number three, I started investing in a team. And making those investments was what brought me the return so that I could quickly then replace my executive salary and then, take the business from 6 to 7 to 8 figures relatively quickly. So yeah, I think to your point, it's like you choose your hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, this has been just incredible. And y'all, Kelly, I want you to share where we can find you and follow you. I know have been, binging your Instagram, just all these little golden nuggets that you're sharing
Oh,
from
thank
your podcast.
you.
You have a great podcast people can tune into. So please share where the best place is to get more from you, learn more from you, and even check out your live launch.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the Kelly Roach Show is definitely the place to come and hang out and listen and just learn and grow. And I put my heart into that show, and 2 new episodes release every week. So definitely the Kelly Roach Show. And if you want more resources on the live launch, you can just come follow me on Instagram, Kelly Roach Official, and just drop me a DM, and you can just put live launch. And I'll just send you free resources and things that you can get started with right away to get you started on the journey, and even to get you live launching before you invest a penny in working with a coach on it.
Amazing. Amazing, Kelly. Thank you so much for being here. Everyone, thank you for listening. Please, if you found some value out of this episode, go ahead and grab a screenshot, share it to your stories, tag both of us on Instagram, on Facebook, so that we can reshare your share. Kelly,
Great.
thanks for being here. This was wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got some value out of this episode, I would love some support. And the best way to do that, so I can keep showering you with loads of actionable tips, is to hit that subscribe button. Leave a review or a comment if you're on YouTube, and share this podcast with a friend. And when you share it with a friend on social, please tag me so I can reshare your share in my stories. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out. I appreciate the heck out of you for showing up. And now it's time for you to take imperfect action so you can work less and enjoy and earn a whole lot more.